Hello and welcome to the Record Rangers podcast. I'm Andy Newport. This is Scott McDermott. You join us the morning after the night before. Here we are at Prague Airport. Hoping to get home somehow, Scott. A bit of travel chaos this morning.
Planes, trains and automobiles, Andy, to get home.
The joys of following Rangers across Europe. We've both had our flights cancelled. KLM say they're going to get us home somehow. We're not flying home together, it seems like.
No, you're via Germany, I'm via Switzerland, but we'll meet up again in London for a pint.
Aye, so but for now we'll sit and have a wee debrief of last night's game. Rangers losing 2-1 on the night in Prague, but winning, getting through into the Champions League playoff rounds with a 4-2 aggregate victory. How do you see it go, Scott? I mean, not the best performance by any stretch from Russell Martin's team.
Look, I'll start with the kind of positives. I mean, Rangers are through, they've qualified. That was the ultimate aim at the start of the tie, obviously. The hard work was done at Ibrox, so they earned it at Ibrox. And listen, over the two legs, I think probably deserved to go through and get into the playoff. But in terms of the performance last night, it wasn't great. As I say, the positive for me, Jack Butland was outstanding. Again, I think he's been really good so far this season. Such a tough spell last season, obviously, when he eventually got dropped by Barry Ferguson. His standards for his first year at Rangers had obviously dipped. Last season there was a lot of mistakes, but whatever he's done over the summer, whether it be physical or mental, he seems to have come back, looking back to his kind of best again, doesn't he?
I mean, for me, it's sort of harks back to that first season here when the team got off to a really poor start and you felt, had it not been for Jack Butland at that stage, goodness, it could have been even worse. And you've got to say, but not for Jack Butland last night, a 3-goal lead could have been, overturned. I mean, that was, we're going to talk about the performance, but just the sheer volume of chances that Viktoria Plzen were allowed to rack up.
27 shots.
Yeah, I mean, it's a major concern, and if you've not got a goalkeeper who's absolutely at it, then the fault lines in this Rangers team would be creaking wide open.
What impressed me about Butland last night was, first of all, his handling in general was good. First half there was a lot of kind of aerial
off his line, stuff, strong with it.
Yeah. He was very good. Secondly, he pulled off one unbelievable save for Adu towards the end. Yep. I think TV cameras might contradict me here. I thought he had a brilliant save
in the first half.
No, in the second half, for the boy that shot for that kind of acute angle, and the ref just gave a by kick. I thought Button got a touch on it.
I thought there was one in the first half that the ball sort of moved and he was sort of moving the wrong way and he sort of punched it out. I mean,
but also he's kicking, and
which has been one of the major detractions of him since he's been here. He's never looked quite comfortable on the ball.
And also there was question marks when Russell Martin came in as to whether Jack Butland was going to be good enough to fit into a Russell Martin team, because we know that he needs his keeper basically to play as a sweeper or a quarterback at times. It's the keeper a lot of the time that builds the attack. And certainly last night, tactically, Rangers had come up with a ploy when Butland had the ball. So a bit of movement to create a bit of space, to drag Plzen's players out wide. And then Butland was firing it into normally Dessers up front who couldn't really hold it up well enough. Or even Antman would kind of drift infield and pick up Butland's passes. So I thought the keeper was really good. And there was actually, I don't know if you noticed, that there was a point in the second half where he launched a couple of balls into an area, and it looked as if he'd just done it aimlessly because nobody got onto them, but he was absolutely raging. He was shouting across to the technical area where the manager was, his arms wide, as if to say, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. There
was a ball he played in the first half of Kisama, so he basically just played it over the top. It looks like a long, aimless punt, but it was a long pass. He was trying it. He just overcooked it ever so slightly. But Russell Martin was sort of keen to point out last night that Jack Butland, John Souttar, Nasser Jiga, they all did what was asked of them last night. They took risks, and it was the guys in front of them that would time and time let them down just by the failure to hold on to the ball and secure possession. But as I said, I mean, it's the bravery. There were definitely times where Butland was standing there waiting to be pressed. He's doing what Russell Martin's asking him. He's inviting the pressure, and there's not, who could ever have imagined Jack Butland being asked to play, as you say, that sort of quarterback role? But he was definitely having to do something along those lines.
And ultimately, when that doesn't come off, and a lot of the times last night it didn't come off because, as you say, the guys in front weren't good enough, weren't at it. That's ultimately why they're facing 27 shots, because if these passes get cut out, there's a lot of times John Souttar was trying to kind of thread balls through or fizz balls into either a midfielder or a striker, and that's exactly what the manager wants. But if people aren't the same wavelength or aren't ready for it, aren't in the same position, and it doesn't come off, it makes John Souttar look bad, and also Butland ends up having to make a save or they end up having to defend in their own box. So I suppose that's what Russell Martin's been getting at every time we speak to him, about the learning and the process and trying to get better, trying to improve. I thought the other positive last night, well, there's two. One, I thought Danilo, when he came on, actually improved Rangers. He was like an upgrade on Dessers in terms of holding the ball up. Russell Martin said it himself post-match. He was clean with his ball possession. He would take a touch, lay it off. He was tidy, he kept Rangers moving. That's what Dessers wasn't doing in the first half. And I think the other big positive was Lyle Cameron, the goal scorer, because in the first half, when Rangers were so loose with their possession and kept turnovers of the ball, Cameron, for me, was one who, without being spectacular, was just neat and tidy. He kept Rangers moving. Simple passes, kept possession, and the other good thing was he was making runs into the box, which is what, again, the manager would want. He was unlucky with one shot in the first half that he just went over the bar when he arrived late. And then, listen, in the second half, and it might not seem like that big a goal, Rangers have eventually went through 4-2 in aggregate. We were there at that point in the game. Rangers needed that goal massively.
The first, I mean, they conceded just before half time, and then Hilton obviously came out, with their spirits raised, and they came out all guns blazing that first 5 minutes, the second half, and there was a few, hairy moments then for Rangers. If they'd got a goal back then, it would have been utterly panic station.
Definitely. And by the way, the goal might look like a simple goal, but he makes that run again, where he makes that kind of late run, isn't picked up. And I think he actually, he's quite clever in almost reading the Danilo shot. Danilo kind of skews the shot slightly. Cameron reads it and then finishes it, keeps himself on side, because the guy on the far side was playing him on, who tried to track Diomande initially. So I thought it was a really clever goal. And when I look at that midfield, Andy, that Rangers midfield, Rothwell, Raskin, Diomande, Connor Barron, there's no goals in there. I don't see many goals at all.
I mean, you look at what did Cameron get from midfield for Dundee last season, obviously big step up from, as has been pointed out to him. But I think he got double figures last year. And I think that's important that we spoke about this a couple of times, that you look across the city, you look at Celtic and Cal McGregor, 10 goals last season, Rio Tati's, a regular goal scorer. Obviously, Niger in the weekend getting himself off the mark. It's vital that Rangers can provide as many goals as they can from round about the pitch. They've relied at times on Cyril Desser's goals and James Tavernier's goals, but we're going to speak about James Tavernier. I'm not entirely convinced he's going to be somebody that's going to be a regular contributor this season. And Cyril Dessers, as much as he scores a lot, can you always rely upon him to get you the big goal, the one that's going to be the vital goal? So I think the more goals they can get from the rest of the team, it's crucial.
I think Lyle Cameron's going to surprise a lot of people this season. Just judging by his start, I think even when we went to St George's Park a few weeks ago in pre-season, it almost felt as if it was an outsider, but I think the focus was on the new signings, wasn't it? It was Asgard, the wingers they were going to bring in, Joe Rothwell, Max Aarons, all the focus on them. Cameron's almost just kind of slipped into the club,
Yeah.
under the radar, free transfer to Dundee. Tell you what, I genuinely think Russell Martin is now looking at him and seeing that he's buying into everything that he's asking him to do. He can run all day, which Martin demands, and crucially, as we've just said, he can get you a goal. And I think when Martin, whether it's the Alloa game next up or Bruges in the playoff next week, I think when Martin's looking at his midfield, at this moment in time, Cameron has to be in it because of all those attributes that we're talking about.
Obviously, the stats come out. You referenced it there, 27 shots on Jack Butland's goal last night, 101 I think it is over the 6 games already this season. And they're worrying stats, but I think for me, the thing that would be most concerning looking at this Rangers team is that it's not like that is at the expense of that's coming as a result of them dominating at the other end and getting caught at the occasional time the breakaway. I mean, I think I'm not one for XG, but I think the XG last night was saying that Plzen should outscored Rangers 3-1 last night.
That can't continue.
No, I mean these are worrying figures. I mean, as much as Russell Martin is insistent he'll learn, and I think if you look at his track record, his previous clubs, obviously MK Dons, Swansea, Southampton, there always is these sort of growing pains. But right now, there's a different requirement at Rangers, and that even when he's acknowledged it, it's not quite been achieved yet. But when they are, what was the phrase Patrick Stewart used? They have to build the plane while they're flying it. Yeah. Well, right now he has to win, even when they're not playing well. It's seen so far; it's cost them domestically. They're already behind the 8 ball domestically, 4 points off Celtic already. I mean, how concerned are you by those kind of that imbalance?
I'd be concerned because ultimately what we're trying to say here is I don't think they're as far on in the Russell Martin process as we thought they would be, or that he would have liked to have been. You mentioned that quote from Patrick Stewart. Russell Martin said when the day he walked in the door that he was going to try and implement a new style, we try to change the culture, change the mentality. We know there's been seismic change at the club, the ownership, managerial structure, everything, new players, 9-10 new players. But Martin said that his first press conference, he knew that he had to do all that while winning games because that's the demand at Rangers. And unfortunately, I know we're only 2 league games in, but he hasn't been able to do that. And that's the concern, is that you can see little chinks of what he's trying to do, but I think we should be seeing a lot more. I mean, Russell Martin, he's renowned for being a possession-based coach. Last night, the possession was terrible for Rangers. I mean, the first half in particular, they just couldn't string 5 or 6 passes together. So I think there's real teething problems. I said last night on Hotline Live, it might just be me, but I don't know if you agree, and it feels to me like when players are receiving the ball at the moment, their first thought is, what should I be doing?
It's not instinctive yet.
What have we taught? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That looks to me like that, and that means there's a lack of cohesion, a lack of fluidity about it. Now, you have to hope that will come. Russell Martin will be praying that, but it has to come pretty quickly because there's massive games coming up. As you say, Russell Martin might not be looking at the league table as he told us the other night, but the supporters are already 4 behind. They've got granted obviously a cup game coming up, which they should get through, you would think, at home to Alloa. But you've then got St Mirren, Bruges, Celtic coming up, massive games that they have to win. There's really no room for teething problems. I mean, this has to come quick.
I mean, I asked the question of Russell Martin last night after the game. I says, we struggle if you play like that against Bruges, and I think you've got to say they absolutely will. I mean, if they put that level of performance in against that team that I think Champions League last 16 last year. I mean, this is a team that are certainly no mugs themselves. So
I watched them at Celtic Park last season in the Champions League. They were really good. I know they only got a draw. Celtic were lucky to get a draw that night, but they've got some top players. Van Aken, the captain, who plays with Nico Raskin for Belgium, outstanding in the middle of the park. So you're right. If Rangers play like they did last night against Club Brugge, it's difficult to see how they get through.
we spoke after the game about some of the individual performances. Obviously, the big talking point before the game was Nico Raskin. Russell Martin said he'd had his head turned by the sort of some of the speculation that was swirling around him over the summer. But he's been impressed by the way he responded. How did you feel? I thought it was more of the old Nico Raskin we saw. I still think he is, as many others in the team, can improve vastly on the ball, but I thought off the ball, his commitment, his covering danger, the tackles he put himself in, the physicality he brought, the energy he brought into that was key at times when Plzen were threatening to sort of run over the top of him a couple of times.
I thought he did okay. Without being brilliant, I thought the first half, like every other Rangers player, he kind of struggled to get a grip of the game. It was all a bit ragged. But I thought it was a lot better in the second half, especially when it went to 1-1 and Rangers did have a wee spell where they kind of, they were keeping the ball, and also at the end when they were kind of seeing it out. Raskin was crucial to that. Look, he played a lot better. He looks a lot better in that number 6 role than Rothwell does at the minute. But maybe Russell Martin would argue it not. For the way I want to play, Rothwell is better in there, and that's where there's going to be an issue for Rangers going forward is who does play.
I mean, it does feel like he's still trying to find this perfect midfield blend. I mean, he's swapped in,
and he's got Asgard.
And he's also. I mean, I think I spoke last week in the podcast when we were sitting with Douglas Dickey, and I thought I'd like to see Rothwell tried out in that more advanced role. Obviously, when he was at Blackburn, and he was at Bournemouth, that was that sort of dynamic ball carrying type.
He came on there last night. Didn't he look? I didn't think looked great.
So I mean, it's interesting. It's just still striving to find this perfect blend. I mean, as you said, don't think anybody would have really thought Lyle Cameron was going to be involved in the picture yet. But he's, let's say, of the 3 midfield slots, he's the one who's pretty much looking the most secure in it.
I thought Diomande was disappointing last night. I don't think he's reached a level yet this season. But I like some of Diomande's qualities in terms of he's a runner, he's got a terrific engine, boundless energy. Is he perfectly suited to a possession-based team that keeps the ball? I'm not sure, Andy.
I think his ability to take the ball under pressure at times is so impressive, but I think he's inconsistent with it. There'll be times where he'll be surrounded by 2 or 3 guys and find a way to wriggle out, and other times he just gives it up cheaply. I think that's the thing that frustrates fans the most. There's no consistency from 1 minute to the next, one game to the next. We'll remember last season him and Raskin going to Celtic Park, going away to Istanbul to play Fenerbahce and kind of running the show, but then we'd go to Dundee or go to St Mirren the net a couple of weeks afterwards and get run over the top of. It's just that thing. It's like I think the fans would just like to see a consistent run of form from, whether it be good or bad, just so they can get a grip on what type of player he really is.
100%. But we're talking about the midfield being an issue. I don't know about you. I think the fullback area is becoming a major issue for Rangers. At left back, Jeffrey. I thought last night Jeffrey looked like his head was all over the place. You're talking about Nico Raskin's head being turned. There's obviously been links this week, with Jeffrey and a move back to potentially going back to Brazil. I thought he was poor last night. I thought he was poor for the goal. So he's kind of under a bit of pressure, and that might be an issue because obviously Yilmaz looks as if he's going to go. So you'd be surprised if Rangers didn't weren't in the market almost immediately for a left back. And on the right, Max Aarons picked up a knock at the weekend. We're led to believe that's why he missed out last night. He struggled in his first few games as a Rangers player. Fans have kind of got his back a wee bit. If he has been carrying a knock, that might have affected him, of course. So the captain comes in last night at right back, and he got better in the second half, Tavernier, but the first half, Andy, I thought, so much so as I was watching the game, I thought he was maybe carrying an injury himself. He didn't look comfortable. To me, he wasn't moving the way he normally moves. I thought he gave the ball.
Do you think this is, I mean, we've seen it with Connor Golson, there reaches an age where just physically you just start, your body declines, and that leads into also an obvious decline in performance. I mean, he's 33 now, I mean, he's performed at such a high level. I mean, to imagine him to be able to continue at those levels at this stage in his career. A guy who plays so much football as well.
That would be my concern. There's no way James Tavernier is going to play 50 games this season, what he would normally do, and he has done for 10 years. I thought he gave the ball away cheaply last night in possession. First 4 or 5 times. So looking for the captain, can I lead by example, keep possession. He gave it away too often. I thought he lacked a bit of intensity in his defending, one-on-one defending a couple of times.
I also don't think he's comfortable with this. You having to come inside and sort of tuck in and be this inverted fullback.
Yeah.
For me, it's a guy who spent his entire Rangers career bombing up and down, looking to whip in crosses, and now he's been asked to drive into traffic, into busy areas of the pitch, and play sort of small, cute passes. And I'm just not entirely convinced that gets the best out of him. For me, James Tavernier is, when he was at his peak, was, as you say, get him into the final third and work balls in.
100%. I'm just intrigued to see how it's going to pan out. As Aaron's the undisputed first choice right back, you would think so. He's one of Russell Martin's first signings. He's a guy he knows well, obviously, from years ago at Norwich. As I say, he hasn't performed. He hasn't shown Rangers fans yet, I don't think, what he's capable of. I know punters are getting on his back a little bit. I'm willing to give the guy more of a chance. I think Aaron's ultimately will be a good player for Rangers this season. I don't think we've seen the best of him. I'd like to think that would come. And if he has been carrying that, I know, as I say, that might have affected him. And I would think he'd be the right back with Tavernier coming in, maybe covering the centre back, or maybe coming in for cup games, even European games, whatever. I don't see Tavernier being the first pick every week for a 55 game season.
Finally, just obviously the game against Alloa in the Premier Sports Cup this weekend. How do you think the manager will shake that up? Is this a chance to give a few of the new signings that haven't had much game time, maybe Armani Fernandez, those ilk? Mikey Moore obviously will be registered for that game as well.
Yeah, I think those two. I think Mikey Moore will definitely be playing. I mean, he must be chomping at the bit. He's had to wait so long for this FIFA registration to come through. So I'd be amazed if he doesn't start. And I think the same with Fernandez. They've spent £2.5-3 million on this guy for Peterborough. He's not kicked a ball yet competitively, I don't think. So they want to have a look at him at centre back. So you'd expect possibly Giga to drop out for the cup game with Fernandez to come in. But you're right, it's going to be interesting. Asgard and Egerman are going to be in the squad, according to the manager. Will they be ready to start? You wouldn't have thought so, but they could certainly play some part in the game. And then you just wonder, because there's guys there who are becoming like fringe players. I'm thinking of guys like Bayrami, Connor Barron, Cortez. They haven't exactly gave the manager a problem, in terms of their performances. Give the manager something to think about. Whenever they have had a wee opportunity, I don't think they've taken it. So it's just whether they trust them enough. Even though it's only Alloa in the cup, with all due respect, what happened last year in the Scottish Cup with Rangers in Queen's Park. So will he make wholesale changes and just give all of these guys a game? I don't think so. I think it will maybe be 3 or 4 changes tops. We're trying to get guys like Moore, Asgard and Fernandez up to speed.
Well, you'll be able to keep up to date with all the goings on at Rangers this week and over the weekend on the website, Record Sport Online, and also in the paper. So we wish you well and enjoy your weekend.